Governments across the United States spend over $6 million every single year trying to eradicate this plant. Entire task forces are dedicated to spraying it, cutting it, and digging it out. Property values have dropped because of it. Engineers have redesigned roads around it. Scientists have spent decades studying how to kill it. And in Japan, where it has grown wild on every hillside since before recorded history, they call it itadori, which translates roughly as removes pain. They eat it every spring. They have for over 2,000 years. The compounds inside it contain up to 100 times more resveratrol than a glass of red wine. And that same compound is currently being extracted from this plant's roots, put into capsules, and sold in pharmacies across Europe and North America for $45 a bottle. This is not a weed story. This is the story of a plant so extraordinary that one half of the world is spending billions trying to kill it, while the other half has quietly been eating it for generations. Its scientific name is Phyllopeia japonica. Most people in the West know it only as Japanese knotweed, the plant that estate agents dread, that structural engineers warn about, and that county extension offices list alongside fire ants and kudzu on their most wanted lists. In Japan, it has a different name, itadori, and a different reputation entirely. The plant is native to Japan, China, and Korea, where it grows naturally in volcanic soils, along riverbanks, and across mountain slopes. It is a perennial. Every winter, its above-ground stems die back. Every spring, it returns from its root system with extraordinary force. In 1842, a Dutch botanist named Philip von Siebold brought the first live specimens to Europe. He considered it a remarkable ornamental, fast-growing, dramatic, perfect for grand gardens. He sold it. It spread. By the 1870s, it had arrived in North America, planted deliberately on estates and along railway embankments for erosion control. Nobody asked what would stop it. Today, it grows in 42 of the 50 United States, along roadsides, riverbanks, railway lines, and in the forgotten corners of suburban gardens. And the conversation around it, in most of the Western world, has never once moved past. How do we destroy it? That question has an answer, but it is not the only question worth asking. Let's start with resveratrol, because this is the compound that explains why two completely different industries have built themselves around the same plant. Resveratrol is a polyphenol, a compound plants produce as a defense mechanism against stress, infection, and UV damage. It is the same compound that gave red wine its health reputation in the 1990s. A glass of red wine contains roughly 1 to 2 milligrams of resveratrol. Japanese knotweed root contains up to 5,700 milligrams per kilogram of dry weight. That is not a small difference. That is a different category entirely. A 2021 research review published in the journal Plants by scientists at the University of Oradea examined the full bioactive profile of Phyllopeia japonica and confirmed what traditional Chinese and Japanese medicine had documented for centuries. This plant contains a complex mixture of compounds, resveratrol, polydatin, imodin, and quercetin, that show measurable anti-inflammatory, cardioprotective, and anti-tumor activity in laboratory and animal studies. Specific findings from that research: resveratrol from knotweed reduced tumor volume by 42% and tumor weight by 44% in animal trials. Other peer-reviewed work has linked it to reductions in LDL cholesterol, protection against oxidative damage, and potential neuroprotective effects. Now, here is the honest version of that paragraph, the way this channel always gives it to you. These studies are real. The science is credible. But many of these findings come from laboratory cell studies or animal models, not large-scale human clinical trials. Resveratrol is one of the most actively studied plant compounds in the world right now, and the results are genuinely promising. But no one should treat knotweed as medicine, and no one should replace a doctor's advice with a plant. What is established, beyond any serious debate, is this: Japanese knotweed contains some of the most intensely studied antioxidant compounds ever found in a plant. Its spring shoots are rich in vitamin A, vitamin C, the antioxidant flavonoid rutin, potassium, manganese, and zinc. They taste like a tart, bright cross between rhubarb and asparagus. And in the village markets of Kochi Prefecture, Japan, people have been eating them fresh every spring for generations. The supplement industry already extracted the value and put it in a bottle. The question is, why did they forget to tell you the bottle was optional? To understand how we arrived at a situation where millions of dollars are spent each year destroying a plant that millions of people in Asia eat freely, you have to understand the extraordinary mistake that was made in 1842. When Philip von Siebold introduced Japanese knotweed to Europe, he was celebrated. The Royal Horticultural Society distributed it to botanical gardens across the continent. The Royal Botanic Gardens at Kew awarded it a gold medal. Wealthy estate owners paid premium prices for it. Railway companies planted it deliberately along embankments, specifically because of its vigorous growth. Nobody consulted the ecosystem. In Japan, this plant has natural limits: insects, fungi, soil organisms, and competing plant communities that co-evolved with it over thousands of years. In a new continent, stripped of every natural check that kept it manageable, the plant became something else entirely. A single rhizome fragment, the size of your thumbnail, can establish a new colony. The roots run 3 meters deep and 7 meters out from the stem. In the United Kingdom, the estimated cost of full eradication has been placed at £1.56 billion, more than the annual GDP of some countries. In the United States, it is present in 42 of 50 states and still spreading. But here is what the eradication conversation quietly leaves out. In Japan, none of this happened, because Japan never stopped treating the plant as a resource. It was grazed, cut, harvested, and eaten. The relationship between the Japanese people and itadori is not a 150-year war. It is a 2,000-year conversation about how to live alongside something powerful. The Western world did not just import a plant. It imported a plant, removed every system that regulated it, then spent a century and a half blaming the plant. Now we get to the part of this story that should change the way you look at the difficult spots in your garden. Japanese knotweed does not merely survive in shade, it thrives in it. Pennsylvania Sea Grant documents this plant's tolerance for full shade, high salinity, drought, and flooding simultaneously. Slilo Prism, an invasive species research collaborative, specifically confirms its extreme tolerance to deep shade. Conservation bulletins from Massachusetts record that it can establish and grow vigorously in full shade conditions that would kill most cultivated plants outright. For gardeners, this is significant. Every property has a dead zone, the dark strip along a north-facing fence, the patch under a mature tree where nothing grows and nothing is asked to grow. Most vegetables simply refuse those spaces. Even shade-tolerant herbs struggle without some light. Knotweed grows there like it prefers it. Now, this raises an obvious and important question. If this plant is ecologically destructive and spreading across 42 states, should you really be cultivating it in that dead zone? The honest answer, no. You should not introduce it anywhere it is not already present. That is irresponsible. But in places where it is already growing, and in large parts of North America and Europe, it has been established for over a century. The conversation shifts. The choice is not between knotweed and a wildflower meadow. The choice is between knotweed you harvest and eat, or knotweed you ignore while it quietly expands. The forager's position on this plant has been consistent for decades. You cannot out-destroy it with chemicals alone, but you can out-harvest it and eat remarkably well in the process. The edible window is spring, and it opens briefly. You are looking for shoots under 8 inches tall. At this stage, the stems are tender. The flavor is at its best, bright, tart, citrusy, somewhere between rhubarb and asparagus. And the oxalic acid content is mild enough for comfortable consumption in normal quantities. Once the plant reaches knee height, the stems become woody. By summer, they are far too fibrous. The harvest window is roughly 4 to 6 weeks in early spring. Here is what you do with them. Raw. Young shoots can be eaten directly, rinsed thoroughly. They have a fresh snap and a pleasing tartness. sautéed. Slice into pieces and cook in sesame oil with garlic and soy sauce. In Kochi Prefecture, this preparation, itadori stir-fry, has been a home cooking staple for generations. It is simple, fast, and genuinely delicious. Pickled. Pack cleaned shoots into jars with white wine vinegar, salt, and sugar. Sealed and stored cool, they hold for months, stretching a short spring harvest into winter pantry food. Compote or crumble. Cooked with sugar and lemon, knotweed behaves exactly like rhubarb in a crumble, a pie filling, or a jam. A professional knotweed remediation company in the UK, not exactly a group with a commercial interest in promoting the plant, ran a full recipe series because the results were that good. Traditional Japanese methods also include salting fresh shoots for up to 10 days, then rinsing and cooking them, a technique that preserves them for extended storage. One honest note: Japanese knotweed contains oxalic acid, as does spinach, rhubarb, and sorrel. People with kidney stones, gout, or rheumatoid arthritis should limit intake and consult a doctor first. For healthy adults eating it in moderation, the risk profile is comparable to many common vegetables. Here is the part of this story that nobody prints on the supplement label. The global resveratrol supplement market is worth over $1.2 billion a year. The primary raw material, the ingredient that fills most of those capsules, is Japanese knotweed root extract, listed on ingredients panels as Polygonum cuspidatum, which is simply another botanical name for the same plant. The supplements are legal, commercially available, and stocked in every major pharmacy chain across Europe and North America. You can buy them at airports. At the same time, state and federal programs across the United States spend millions annually coordinating campaigns to spray, cut, and remove the same plant from roadsides, riverbanks, and private property. So a manufacturer can legally harvest knotweed in bulk, extract its compounds in a factory, and sell the result to you for $50 a bottle. But the person who lives beside a stand of established knotweed, who might harvest its shoots every spring and eat them fresh, does not hear any of this from their extension office. They are handed a brochure about herbicide options. This pattern should feel familiar by now if you have been watching this channel. The moment a natural resource becomes commercially valuable, the pipeline that captures that value tends to also be the pipeline that defines how the resource is discussed and what the public is allowed to think about it. The free version is rarely the one that gets promoted. To be completely fair, the ecological argument for knotweed management is real and serious. This plant genuinely damages native ecosystems, riverbanks, and building infrastructure. That is not invented. Responsible land management matters, but responsible land management and responsible foraging are not opposites. The Japanese have known this for 2,000 years. The conversation in the Western world has not yet caught up. Before you go looking for knotweed shoots this spring, here is the honest picture, because this channel never hides the complicated parts. Japanese knotweed is regulated in a number of US states and many countries worldwide. The regulations differ significantly by location. In some states, including Michigan, possession or transport may require a permit in certain circumstances. In Pennsylvania and Delaware, it appears on noxious weed lists and its sale is restricted. In Washington state, it is prohibited to transport, buy, sell, or distribute plants or plant parts. In Oregon, planting is prohibited in parts of the state. The UK's Wildlife and Countryside Act makes it a criminal offense to plant it in the wild. In the vast majority of jurisdictions, however, foraging from already established populations, harvesting shoots from plants growing on your own property or on someone else's with their permission, is not prohibited. You are not introducing it. You are using what is already there, which most land managers would consider a net positive. Before you act on anything in this video, search your state name plus Japanese knotweed regulations. It takes 4 minutes. Know where you stand. Responsible foragers have been navigating this for years. The knowledge is there. The important thing is going in with your eyes open. There is a village in Kochi Prefecture, Japan, where every spring the same ritual has played out for longer than anyone can trace. People walk out to the hillsides where itadori grows thick along the streams. They pick the young shoots, the tender ones, still red at the tip. They carry them home. They salt some for later. They stir-fry some tonight. They make crumbles and pickles and teas. They know exactly when to harvest. They know exactly how to prepare it. And when the season ends, they let the plant grow back, because they have always understood something the West forgot. Using a plant and destroying it are not the same thing. Meanwhile, across the Pacific, we have spent 150 years declaring war on the same plant, spraying it, passing regulations around it, bulldozing it from riverbanks, and we are, by every measure, losing. The plant is in 42 states. It is not going anywhere. But somewhere in that gap, between the Japanese grandmother who calls it itadori and the county eradication program that calls it a Class B noxious weed, is a question worth sitting with for a moment. When we discard 2,000 years of knowledge about a plant because it arrived on our shores as an ornamental, who actually loses? Not the plant, not the supplement industry, quietly extracting its compounds and selling them for $50 a bottle. The person who loses is the one living beside a stand of knotweed, paying taxes toward its removal, and not knowing that it might be one of the most nutritionally interesting plants in their yard. A forager once put this simply, and I have never forgotten it. I didn't plant it. I can't stop it. So I eat it every spring. And every spring I eat something the government spent money to kill, and I feel fine. That is the spirit this channel runs on. Plants that the system forgot. Knowledge that refuses to disappear with them. If that is why you are here, subscribe and hit the bell. The next one might already be growing in your backyard.